everyone, and welcome back to the Magpies collection ASMR. I have a slightly different video for you all today, as we have a bit of a spa day planned for some of my vintage and antique leather items. Now, I have had this vintage sword in my collection for a couple of years already. And as you can tell, it is very dry and in need of some love. We have a curious cat here who's saying hello. She'll settle down. But I didn't want to hurt these brass fittings or the blade inside. And then I recently got this beautiful antique leather piece as well, so I figured it's probably time for me to do some research and figure out how best to protect these leather items from any further damage while in my hands. This is not any kind of professional advice. I just did a little bit of research myself, but I strongly recommend, if you have antique or vintage leather items yourself, to please do your own research and take the care that you think is going to be best for them. Something goes wrong here, I don't want that happening to your precious items as well. But what I saw and felt most comfortable with was something natural that would not be very harsh, as this is very old and already not in the best shape. So I have here some all-natural leather conditioner made with beeswax, organic oils, and mink oil. I read in particular mink oil is very hydrating, and the beeswax will add a nice protective layer on the leather here. I'll do one item at a time and then give you a little bit of some additional details about them as well. We'll start with cleaning them, but I will say one step I took beforehand was to do a test patch on both of these items, as I did read some horror stories that some people had leather crumble or get very stiff when they used protective measures that weren't particularly suited for them. So I did do some test patches beforehand on both of these. We'll start with this here, since it is a little bit smaller. This is the leather case of a pair of antique opera glasses. I have always wanted a pair of opera glasses. I think they're so fun and beautiful. And in particular, I love this style with this mother of pearl paneling. It's just gorgeous. So this, as you may be able to see, is from Le Mieux Paris. I would say it's maybe a secondary maker from the late 19th century, early 20th century. And you'll find a lot more information about Le Mieux Paris. So I wonder if the name is intended to kind of evoke association with that more well-known maker. These particular glasses do have functional scope here, but they are missing one lens on the end, so no cracks or scratches on the lenses that we do have, but it's not a fully functional piece at the moment. But I do think it is beautiful. I love how shiny and bright these mother of pearl panels are, and I just think it's a really fun, kind of evocative piece. It does come in this slightly beat up but very lovely leather case, and you can see that this piece was sold from A. Stowell and Company, Boston, which was a high-end jeweler and producer of silver in the 1860s through to the 1980s, so very long-lived. I do believe this piece is from the late 1880s to the 1920s, thereabouts. See, I took the glasses out in case this does affect them at all. I don't want to get them stained or corroded. And then inside we do have this really lovely, soft, I guess, silk with the velvet here. So I'm going to keep that closed as well, just so we aren't going to impact the inner lining. This piece is very dirty, so I do have a sacrificial wet cloth here. It has this green, you'll see coming off. I don't know if that is the dye or stain on the leather. It's just kind of breaking down over time, or if it was kept in with something that is green and maybe a leather or a felt that wore off over time onto this leather here. And it is coming off. I'm just doing a good surface clean, and we'll dry it off as well before we do the conditioning, just so we're not rubbing the dirt and grime over the years to the piece itself. I don't expect to get this fully clean, and you can see there's a lot of wear and tear on areas of the case, so it's not going to look like new. I hope it'll be at least a bit brighter and maybe more vibrant, like you'll see when it's wet. I can tell that this piece also came with a strap, as we do have these two pieces here that have been cut over the years. I don't mind that it's missing that. Probably would have been a little handle, but I think it's still very handsome as it is, and still functional to protect the glasses inside. We do have quite a bit of dirt that is coming off over the years, so that's good to see. I particularly wanted some mother of pearl opera glasses, as I actually inherited my great-grandfather's mother of pearl cologne bottle, and it's amazing. It still smells like roses. So he's quite the character in our family history. He's a very big personality. You can see the linings breaking out a little bit here. I'll be careful. And he was an owner of an antique shop as well, so I like to think I got the antiquing bug from him. But I thought it would go so beautifully with a pair of these display them on my shelf together. I can tell this is very fragile right here where the lining is coming apart. So once I do a good thorough clean and condition, I probably will not handle these pieces as much. I know this is inherently slightly destructive, and I'm not a professional restorer by any means, so I'll do one good spa day and then probably leave it be. Alright, already I think it looks much better. The green is still here, but at least we've gotten a good amount of surface grime off of her. There. And this is going to be my cloth to actually buff that leather conditioner in, but it is dry as well, so just dry it off a bit so we don't have any kind of moisture or anything that would lead to mold. Good, the green isn't coming off on this towel, so hopefully she's just a little bit cleaner. Oh, just a little bit here. All right, now I do have leather conditioner here. See, it goes on pretty clear, and it does not have much of a scent at all. It's very natural. It has maybe, if anything, just a hint of beeswax. Now, I've tested both of these, and I'll say this one was very thirsty. It really drank up that oil, but this piece was not quite as much. I don't have any technique or anything to this. I'm just going to gently rub it in and make sure we don't have any big clumps, and also make sure we don't have any dry patches remaining. Hoping this will bring a little bit of life back to the leather. You can probably see that already. A bit more shine, a bit more color, deepen up the black so it's not as ashy, and also provide that protective layer so that if it is a little dry, it doesn't start cracking. And also to keep some of the dust and dirt and everything away. Oh, already I think she's quite lovely. I'm just trying to smooth it out, so again we don't end up with any big clumps out of the conditioner. We'll just go top to bottom, I think. Sides, I'll be a little more careful around those hinges. Try not to really soak them in it. Just in case, so they don't rust. Already, I think she looks really gorgeous. Much better. It will dry down a bit. As we know, I've done a patch on the back. so it won't be this shiny forever, but it will stay much brighter than what it was before. So you can definitely tell after eating a couple of days that it did have a nice little buff up. Alright, I think that side looks much better. Just make sure to get around the top as well, mostly to even out the application. Just a little bit there. Okay, we'll set her down. And we'll do this front face. This has the majority of that green. Whether I'm hoping it's not mold, but it doesn't smell at all. So my guess is it is either, I've mentioned, something rubbing up against it over the years, or potentially a breakdown of the stain on the leather itself. I do think it looks much, much better with this oil on it, this conditioner. Brings back that rich color and shine, and it does tamp down on that green. Trying to be very gentle here, as this is not as structurally sound as the top piece. Once it has the glasses inside, it's pretty stable. I'm not worried about it breaking, but it's just gonna be gentle with it. These sides are probably the most fragile part, as that's where the stitching is. You can see the stitching is broken down over the years along the bottom there, so I won't put as much there and fiddle with that area as much as possible. Alright, to the back now. Right, do a new area on that cloth. That's good. I do have a few leather-bound books. I would certainly not do this to those. I actually haven't looked into any recommendations for sprucing up leather on books, but I am sure this is not recommended for that, as you not want this near those pages. I try to be very, very picky about leather books to avoid red rot, and I just think oftentimes old leather books, just inherently, they can look a little ratty, so I'm pretty choosy about those. I'm very worried about rot spreading to the rest of my collection, so I only have a couple. And overall, they're in amazing shape, so we don't necessarily need the same touch-up. I do have one that's a little bit sadder, but I would be quite hesitant to do anything drastic with that. Get up in these folds here. This is a very interesting shape to the case. It does follow the curve of the glasses themselves, so it is a bit oblong rather than just making it one big cylinder straight down. can tell these are definitely bespoke for these classes. And I wonder if you're meant to take the whole little case with you to the opera. And you could open it up, take your little glasses out. It would be quite a fun little activity, just a little ritual before your show. Ah, amazing. Looks so much better already. And lastly, to the bottom here. Just going to buff it back in gently. The bottom is equally delicate as it doesn't have quite the same frame inside as that top with the hinge. So it is more reliant on the integrity of the stitching. It's a bit loose. I don't want to damage that forever. Alright, we'll take a piece that doesn't have any on it. I'm just kind of buff that in a little bit. Gently. I went for a cloth that did not have big fibers on it. I don't know if that's better or worse or just a factor of the cloth I have, but more so this one is flaky and I didn't want it to pick up any flakes or pull, so I opted for something that was very smooth. Also not something that is deeply colored, just in case it would rub off onto the leather here. Looks much better. There are a couple of spots that are deep into this groove here. So I think I'm going to take a healthy there and just rub that in. Just not as shiny. So I can tell it hasn't really picked up as much of the conditioner in that first pass. There we are. And do a good once over. Check if we missed any spots. And I think she is done. Looks so much better, more vibrant. I'm sure the sheen will tamp down a little bit as it really soaks in and dries, but I just think she looks more like herself. I will wait until it dries a bit and then I'll put the glasses back in, so we'll leave them here for now. And I'll actually move this up so we can take a look at our second item. Now this I have shown before, and I do have an update for it, as the last time I showed it to you, it was stuck inside of its sheath and I was very afraid to take it out. This is an Argentine Naval Academy dagger, and I won't go through it quite as much in detail, but it's really a beautiful piece. It has, of course, this amazing lion's head finial with gray skin handle and these beautiful brass fittings. There are a couple of details about this piece that I didn't notice on first inspection. So you'll see here, this is actually to help hold the blade inside the sheath. So I have it slightly out of the sheath already, but inside it has this little groove so that if you're on parade, it'll really hold the blade in and you're not worried about it falling out. So you actually have to press down. You'll see that lever go down, and then you can pull the blade out. It was very much stuck in here before, but we have been able to get it out since. Open this down. And you can see, well, the rest, the fittings and the sheath itself are not in the best condition. The blade is just magnificent still. I will, before putting it away fully, do another little clean. The oils on your hands can actually corrode blades, so it's in amazing shape and I want to keep it that way. But I will show it to you a little bit more in depth. Hopefully you can catch the light and see that it is beautifully engraved. So on this side we have the Argentine crest to match the handle, and we do have a lovely anchor for the Naval Academy. It does actually have a maker's mark as well here. Hopefully you can see that says Alexander Copo ACS Silicon. And this was really helpful for me in dating this particular blade. Last time I mentioned I thought it was early 20th century. That is definitely correct. It is actually, it's quite sad a little bit. More history to this, but this particular maker from Solingen, Germany was well known for their metal products, specializing in the 20th century in bladed weapons like this. But right before the Second World War, in the 30s, they were forced to sell because they're Jewish family. And so this particular mark dates up to 1936, at which time the family was put in a camp and sadly did not survive the war. So I can say with pretty good certainty that this is from the early 30s to the 20s. No later than that based on the mark. So that's part of really the reason I'm interested in antiques. You learn so much and there's so many stories to each piece. So a bit of a sad history, but I think that just makes it all the more special to know a bit about the family and the makers as well. So on the other side, you can see it does have that anchor motif, this beautiful scroll work, and it does give another clue about this particular blade, if you didn't know already, that it says Escuela Naval Militar República Argentina. So the military naval academy of the Republic of Argentina. I'll put the blade down, and I may actually move things around a bit so that we don't get any of that leather conditioner on it. So I will just do some reshuffling here. And we'll move her up. There we go. Awesome. Because what I really wanted to give a spot to was the sheath down here. Once I was able to take the blade out, as you can see, it is very flexible. I understand that's pretty common, unless a longer scabbard's going to have some kind of interior structure, like wood, for example. Otherwise, it will be pretty flexible. But given the state of the leather, I'm worried that it would lack some structural integrity and could crack further. So I think she needs a little buff. We'll do just a quick wipe down. I'm not as worried about the dirt on this one. When I did my spot test, not much came off, so I don't think she's that dirty. The brass could use a clean, but I will focus on that right now. Okay. And now we'll get to shining her up. So this one, I was more so worried about stabilizing the leather. You can see here, particularly on the sides, that we do have some lost patches, and that could be degenerative from there. So particularly want to make sure that moving forward, we don't have more loss if possible. This is not in amazing condition, which is why I feel comfortable doing this. It's also not the most valuable thing in the world. You can readily find them in better condition than this for not too much. So it's not a family piece, it's not something super rare. I figure I can do a bit of experimenting and see if I can spruce her up a bit. This one, as I mentioned, was very, very thirsty. So I am going to be pretty liberal how I'm applying this. And then we can wipe off excess later. But I'm also hoping putting a lot on the cloth is going to make sure that it glides easily and it doesn't peel up any looser patches of the leather. I was very excited to be able to open it. It was like the sword in the stone. I had my family over for the holidays, and my brother took it as his mission to get it open. So he was in the corner finagling, trying to pull and prod at it, but finally got it open. And we were all so thrilled to see how wonderful the blade is. You also noticed I was handling it pretty in a pretty blasé way because it is fully dull. It did not have a sharpened blade. It's very smooth on the sides, so no worries about handling it there. It's totally safe. Probably should have mentioned that. I just grabbed onto it. I would not do that, certainly with any modern live blades. But even for other antique weapons, I would not handle them like that. Be a little more careful with my fingers. Oh, it seems so much better, doesn't it? You could tell she was really, really dry. And I worry if they stay dry and they move a lot, not that I'm going to be taking this out of the sheath very often, but it's just downhill from there. It gets a crack and it starts crumbling to pieces. So my goal with the antiques that I have in my care is that kind of a steward for them so that they can keep on their journey the amazing stories they've had so far for many generations to come. Alright, I think we're good there. We may go back in and just get around those brass fittings a little bit more. And we'll touch the back up a bit first. This side is more fragile because it is where the stitching is. So I will very careful here. The stitching does look pretty good and intact, but it also hasn't moved very much. So I'm worried it could start unraveling a little bit as we go poking and prodding at it. Go. Already looks much better. And I'm having to use a lot more product on this one than here to achieve that similar look. So as I mentioned, very thirsty, very dry. I know this one was in a basement for a very long time, so not the best place to be storing. Someone's having some traffic fun out there. You might be able to hear them. Yeah, not the best place to be storing anything, really. The wet, the dry, all not great. So I certainly would not do that moving forward for any of the knitting items that I have. Oh, right, that was a good first pass. I think we're going to take an edge here and just go in and touch up some of the spots that were closer. There we go. To those brass fittings. And along the seam here, really get into those corners. And make sure everything is nicely hydrated. All right, that looks so much better. Evenly shiny. And we'll do the same on this side. Just make sure you've gotten into those corners, but not have big clumps of conditioner. Right, same down here. Great. And then last, just making sure we spread everything out and buff it in. Hopefully, if there is any excess, it'll come back up onto the towel. Great to see we don't have a lot of cracking or leather coming off, so pleased with that. All right, I think they both look so much better. They definitely are shinier and more even, and I think just have a lovely life to them that they didn't really have before. They were very dusty, busty, crusty. The last thing I'll do is I will leave them out of their items for a couple of hours just to let it soak in a bit. I'll clean off the brass fittings, I'll clean off the blade. I will also do a good dust on the glasses as they are pretty dusty. And then everybody will go back safe and sound on their displays. I want to thank you all for joining me for this fun little spa day and to share a little bit